Hi, everyone. It's Nancy Reyes with For Your Canine.
And Joanne Soike with For Better For Worse.
And Lisa Bataska with Canine Defined.
Let us know you're there. We are going to be talking about more dog to dog stuff. That seems to be a pretty popular topic, and people are really interested in learning more about reading dogs. So we have some video and to review and talk about. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask, and we're going to see, um, we have so much video that we're gonna probably not be able to get to all of it, but we're gonna try to do the best we can with what's there. So let us know you're there. I know Joanne and I just got back from a from a trial, so um, and I'm sure some of the regulars kind of hi Arlen, hey Ronnie, uh, are probably coming back from that same trial. Anyway, so so we're going to talk about a little bit of when dogs are introduced, a little bit of dog play, and some of the things to kind of look for in when dogs meet each other, right? Because people, again, I know we're going to sound like broken records because we say it every time, but not every dog is meant to be with, there's going to be likes and dislikes, and they're going to be able to do well and not well. And it's just really want you to kind of look at when dogs are meeting, just to look for certain things. Hopefully it'll help you make some good decisions for your dog, whether it's to let the dog play or not. And also to really be thoughtful about dogs play, their interaction, and how to um, just make sure everybody's safe, and that the interactions with other dogs are very positive, uh, especially those of you that have young dogs. Very, very important. Those or dogs that are unsure. It's really important that they have positive interactions with dogs, especially when they're young, because that'll set them up for success in adult life. And so I am going to be getting a puppy in the next uh, month or so. So again, I take great care to make sure the first year or year and a half or two of their lives, they have nothing but positive interactions. I am fortunate. I am surrounded by wonderful people with great dogs that I know are going to be able to educate my puppy and give him a positive experience. And we we have been very lucky. Joanne, Melanie, and Amy, we've all have dogs around the same age, so they get to play together when we are together, and they get to socialize, and it's very monitored, but they also have really positive interactions. They don't all play all together, but we have certain dogs that get along better with other dogs than others. For example, like my lab gets along great um, with Joanne and Melanie's male Vishlos. She's great with them. There's never ever a problem. And then I have Tango, who gets along great with Amy's Doberman. So, and then Bam also gets along great with Amy's Doberman. So we kind of set it up like that. So we set up good situations for everybody to have a good time. We also manage the arousal a lot. So we're going to talk a lot about that too, because that matters. I am getting another lab, Kim. I'm getting another lab puppy. Aunt Lisa's already got on the schedule to take care of him one more time.
Well, and I'll be getting on Thursday, I'll be getting my little Papillon male. So
Yep.
that'll be exciting.
Yep. And so we all are. So again, it's stressful, but it's great in many ways, right? We have an opportunity to set the dogs up for great success, and that's why all of our, like most of our dogs, are really pretty well socialized. Our Bam and Tango, while they're really wonderful dogs with certain dogs, they are a little much for some dogs. So we monitor that situation pretty well. So and again, so some of the stuff you'll see, and feel free to ask questions. One of the things you get better at is by watching dogs and watching them often and a lot. And so, and there's no substitute for that, right? There's no substitute for the time and watching dogs. And that's why you're not always going to be right. But it's you start seeing things more and you start picking things apart. So it's really helpful, and and that's how you get better, because we weren't born like being able to read dogs perfectly. We had to do a lot.
No, and I was actually going to say something about that, right? Because I think all three of us, I don't even want to count the thousands of hours of video that we watched, right? So
Exactly.
I think right, when you put us in front of live dogs in the beginning, sure, we were all right. We helped dogs. But I think it was the video, and I disagree with me if you guys, either one of you, right? It was the video that helped me the most, because I could rewind it. I could watch this part. I could watch a tail. I could watch an ear. I could watch their toes. I could watch, right? And I could watch it 20 times and see 20, 50 different things in it. And that really helped me be able to put it in real time, because you can't rewind real time. If you miss something, it could be the difference between a fight or nothing,
So Donna White was saying, how do you get him to have a better relationship? And Donna, we can give you some tips on that, because I deal with a lot of dog to dog problems or issues, and there's some things you can do to make it better, but it depends, right? Management will fail. So it depends on how they don't get along. Like, what's the problem? Did they fight, or they just don't, they're not best buddies. So it depends on what your expectation is for that relationship with those dogs, right? Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts to that, right?
Today, I just wanted to jump in. Today was kind of interesting because this is hot on the heels of this. There was a family that came to look at a dog, and I happened to be at the shelter, and it was a poodle mix, I think. Anyway, super nervous, very worried. They were interested in two different dogs. And of course, we do dog to dog readings, and when we do them on leash. It's not desirable. But we did them on leash because it just gives you information. And if you know how to read dogs, that's going to, help you. This dog came out, and the one dog, and she's a young dog. This other dog's like 6 years old. And I'm like, she's not a fan of dogs. I could see that right off. We walked up. The dog was like, walked up to her, went to say hi. The dog was like, not cool. I don't like you. Did a head flick and move away. And this dog was like, and it was a female, of course, that's fun. And then so she was like, wait, what did you just say to me? And so then there was a little bit of a discussion, kind of like some looks. And I'm like, yeah, no, this isn't the right dog, because she's going to push the limit. She knows your other dog's nervous. It's not going to happen. Then she had another dog on the list. I'm like, that one, it was like was she a bull terrier mix? I go, if she didn't like this one, she ain't going to like the bull terrier, because that one's bouncing around and she's not super comfortable. And again, another female. So we looked at a male that happened to come out, super nice dog. He was like reading all her signs, and she was like, I'm really not comfortable. I'll come sniff you, and so forth. And basically I told them their dog is not ready. Their dog is a people person, and it's okay not to get another dog. Because I'm like, does she seem like she doesn't want to interact with other dogs? So in that particular case, I sent them away, and I'm like, just spend more time with her and enjoy the time you have with her and do activities with her, versus trying to get a friend for her, because she really doesn't want one. So it was pretty interesting, but I'm pretty honest when we do those intros with other dogs and stuff, because you have to do them appropriately, and you have to be able to, read it off from the start. And being in rescue, one of the things I know we'll talk about is one of the life-saving things for dogs in rescue is social interactions. And it's difficult because we don't know the history of the dogs. Some of the dogs we know that are okay with other dogs, and they're also in a shelter situation. So high arousal, being in a isolated area or around noise and constant interaction, constant motion and talking and stuff like that makes it really difficult. So the dogs are over aroused when they're trying to get out to play. So it becomes real tricky when you start looking at that.
Mm-hmm. So Donna just asked a question about have a better relationship. She says there's no fighting, but her dog will bark and sound like he's snapping, but doesn't. The other dogs just won't play. Kirk has played with so many dogs, but he doesn't like to be pushed, literally pushed. So questions I would ask are: is Kirk new to your group? Is he a newly adopted dog? Has he been
No,
there?
she's had him for a while.
Okay. All right.
So
then,
and then the other ones were added, it sounds like. Is that correct?
Or I'm just guessing, Donna. They're probably coming over to play, like a friend or a family member's dogs are probably coming over, right?
oh, I see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and nobody likes to be physically pushed, right? Imagine if your friend just like that's a great Seinfeld episode, right? Where it's like Elaine's always hitting, right? Nobody likes that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just visiting. Yep.
Yeah,
So
okay.
I mean, I don't think anybody would like that. So I would just manage that until everyone calms down by a gate, right? Baby gate.
You know, and the other option I think a lot of times is like we want these social dogs, social with people, social with dogs, but you know what? Not everybody wants friends. It's
Right.
okay.
Right.
You know, and there's also play styles, right? So like the bully breeds are super pushy and forward and on top of each other and body bumping, and they get it. But if you put them up with a herding breed who's like, that's super not cool, well, then you might have a discussion, right? And the level of discussion is going to be relative to the tolerance of the dogs and so forth. So that's something else. Maybe it's more of a dog that wants more space yielding and wants to do more play and chase. And in the program Dogs Playing for Life, they talk about the various categories of dog play or the various types of dogs. Like there's the gentle dainty, and then there's rough and rowdy, then there's blah, blah, blah. So it's pretty interesting. You have to know who your dog is and respect it.
Yep. And I think you'll see in some of these videos we're going to show you tonight too. Usually when somebody comes flying into a situation, that is where a lot of the problem starts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when they do, no, don't yell at Kirk. He's absolutely right to saying, get the heck away from me, right? So what I would do is I would manage those other dogs coming into your area. So maybe Kirk gets the kitchen or something, right? Where those dogs can't get to him. So when they come flying in like Tasmanian devils, right? They can start sniffing around your house. They can calm down some, and then you can potentially try the interaction and see if it goes a little better.
It never goes well when the dog, you know. That's why I'm really big on no greeting at doorways. I just, for dogs or people, dogs that love people and all that, jumping and all that. I'm not a fan. So and if Kirk goes to their house, Donna, I'm kind of a big advocate of they have them put their dogs up, and then have Kirk maybe have a safe place for him to go until everybody acclimates, and then you can let him interact. It's no different than if it was a very happy golden meeting a person. You're gonna put him away, kind of get everybody calm down, because in the heat of all that activity, nothing good will come of that. Just doesn't, whether it's people or dogs. But usually with people, the people can get hurt with the jumping and all that stuff. And dogs with that entrance and stuff gets a little bit tricky for sure. So that matters a lot. Yes.
Yeah, he's not enjoying it, Donna.
Well, he's not enjoying.
He's not enjoying if he's hiding under your lap or chair. He's not enjoying those interactions at all. Yeah. So I would just avoid it. It's just he doesn't have to. You know, it's like you saying, you know, if you don't get along with your in-laws, you must go with them and hug everybody and say thank you, right? And inside you're dying, but you'll do it out of respect, but it doesn't mean you're enjoying every minute of it. So I think there's a fine line. And remember, these are still animals.
Right.
So.
All right. So we're going to show you a short clip. And you guys, this is a little participatory, right? Tell me what you see and what you think. Okay. Yeah, well, and Donna, what you can do to maybe give it, but you're going to have to give it time. And this is where we get impatient. I'm kind of a big fan of, they can be near each other, but separated by a gate, and they can just have good, positive experiences there. Or what I tell people who have dogs that are having little problems is you can tether the dogs to something they can have. Every time those dogs come over, they get a bully stick or a Kong or something. So you create that positive association, because that change has to come from the inside out, right? So like if I had dogs that maybe are not getting along, I would make sure that something enjoyable always happens when that other dog's around. It doesn't necessarily have to be an interaction between the two dogs. Just being around, they can be on one side of the fence having a Kong, the others can be on the other side of the fence having a Kong. And every time so-and-so comes over, Kongs happen or whatever, they get the special treat. And that takes time because then he might change his mind over time. And also the other dogs will also learn how to better interact with Kirk, right? So I think that's where I think you can have successful relationships, but it just takes time, right? When you're trying to push them, it's hard. It's like telling your husband, go talk to those guys. My husband would be like, I don't want to. He doesn't. He's happy. You got to let it happen a little more organically, I guess. So just something to think about. And then just make sure you have nice positive interactions between them. I have a little foster beagle that is in my house, and I worry she's getting more comfortable. And as she gets more comfortable, I worry that Jive might give her a correction that might result in a hold because she's got such a hard mouth. She's not mean, but the beagle is kind of rude, doesn't have any manners. So I manage it. Like I'm always there when they're together. I always make sure that it's positive. They only get good things when they're nearby. And I think over time, I think they go out together in the yard and all that stuff. And that's totally fine. But I don't leave them unsupervised, and I really manage their interactions with them more positive. Now with Tango and my other little dog, it's not as big of a problem because they will never correct her. But Jive is a little more of a rule setter.
Yep. And like my foster dog, when he came in, he was in his own space behind a gate for at least a month. Mm-hmm. So it seems like forever, but you know what? He's now integrated into the dogs, and so it's going fine. So
yeah, it really, really, it doesn't. It seems like a month seems like such a long time. It is not. It is. It's nope. In the grand scheme of things, it's a blink of an eye, really. Okay, so I have some video. These videos are from a shelter setting where they're trying to. What's the name of the program, Lisa?
The program is called Dogs Playing for Life.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's two different programs that are out there, but Dogs Playing for Life is one of the big ones. And, in order to keep the dogs sane, they need social interaction as well as foraging behavior and then so forth. And because training's hard in that environment. So they do rely upon a lot of social type of play, provided the dog is not displaying any kind of true aggression towards other dogs. So this might feel a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, but it's they're doing the best they can with what they've got. Mm-hmm. So this is not to judge what the program is doing at all. The program is doing what it can because that's what it's all about. We're really just using it for that to be able to read the dogs, and they've been kind enough to put it on YouTube so we can watch it. So, all right. All right. So they leave the leashes on the dogs obviously for safety reasons. So this is not typically, but it's an option, right? If you're not uncomfortable or if you're not sure. But these with pet dogs, the dog's a little bit better. So I probably guess you have a little more freedom to maybe not use a leash or whatever. In this case, it's very wise for them to have the dogs drag a leash in case something happens. Okay, so what do you guys see here? And who do you think is issue, or who do you think is the one that's having the most problem with this interaction? I can't see the thing, you guys. So you guys are.
Yeah, we'll tell you. Nobody's responded yet. You're good.
Yeah. So is there going to be a problem, or what do you think, or who's the one that seems to be having the most issue with this particular interaction? I will play it again.
Mm-hmm.
We got one Connor, we got 4 Shepherds.
So we got one Connor has a problem, one and what, 4 shepherds
And four for the shepherd.
that has an issue.
Yep.
Okay. My people. It's not this. No, I'm kidding. All right, I will play the rest of it. Okay.
So let me ask you guys a question before they even say that, right? For those of you guys who answered the shepherd, did you answer that way because of the tail, or did you answer that way because of something else? Because we're trained to look at tails, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nobody's responding yet.
Okay.
Shepherd ears.
Mhm.
Okay. Tail, ears, tails and stance. Okay. Tail and ears. Yep. Okay.
Whole
Full
body.
body. Tails, ears, and eyes of Connor. Okay. Body posture. Good.
Good. Okay. So now Joanne just showed me this little thing. We're gonna play it real slow so you can see it in real in slow motion.
So while she does this, if anyone's super nerdy like me, if you find dog videos on YouTube or you upload them, you can actually slow it down so you can really see it in slow motion using the settings feature.
Well, I think the first thing is even Connor just coming in. Just look at his body language coming in. He's uncertain, head's low, and so forth. And his head is like level to his top line. So is the shepherd.
So what did you guys notice in that and with the slow motion?
Connor looks worried. Connor seems more assertive.
Because there was a lot of being communicated here between these two dogs, right? A lot being communicated.
Both little tail wag on shepherd. Connor's mouth is pulled back. Connor's scanning. Connor looked worried. Shepherd's tail wagged.
So once again, watch like Lisa said, look at his body posture already. He's already pretty worried just in general, just being in there, right?
I think it's interesting how, there's people, there's let in, and he goes immediately by himself to a corner. Is like, what the heck is going on? Right? Mm-hmm. There's no direct interaction. Even with the people, even the shepherd's like, oh, it's a person. What the heck are you doing here?
Yeah. And you notice the normal trot here, and then, whoa, that shepherd all of a sudden slows that gait and withdraws a little bit.
Yeah. See a little bit of a lean back on the shepherd,
mm-hmm.
and the push and the forward of Connor.
Yep. Stepping forward, taking space. Shepherd's like, gotta go. That's crazy.
Yep.
He's like, why'd you put me in here with that dude?
So you see what I mean? That is that little situation between those dogs, right? Was it looks like. Thank you.
Yep, got it.
So anyway, tense muscles, yeah. So in this case, the shepherd was like, okay, I get what you're talking about. It was Connor with Connor had the problem, right? Connor was the more sort of, and had the shepherd not yielded that space,
There would have been a discussion.
there would have been there would have been a problem. But the shepherd was like, okay, and that's why, and this is where sometimes if the dog backs off of another dog like that and yields space, the handler is like, come on, don't go away, go say hi, and that's where you have problems, right? Because both dogs were very clear. The shepherd didn't want any problems in that situation, and that the pity, and to be fair, there's a lot of other stuff going on here, right? Connor is not crazy about people. He is very concerned about. I mean, there's a lot happening here. So the shepherd was not the issue, because if the shepherd wanted to start something, he was going to find something. And if you look at it, the Connor backed him off, and the shepherd left and yielded space, right?
Yep.
So,
and that shepherd started to yield space even in the approach. You saw him slow down and kind of back up just a little bit. So
maybe not.
Right. But he was but there was nobody else in that enclosure, just Connor. So that was the only thing he decided to go check it out. And then he decided, I probably shouldn't have done that. And he luckily again didn't show a lot of aggression, but Connor is like that, maybe didn't like his approach or the way, and maybe he'd be okay with somebody else, with another dog, right? We don't know, because that's what I mean. It's like these people are trying to figure out good playmates and help them develop social skills, right? So you're trying the best they could.
Gail asked, would it make a difference who was in the space first? Not necessarily.
No. Nope. Sometimes it does, but not usually.
Can you play just that very first part when Connor starts moving before the shepherd even comes in? Because I want you guys to picture this video. And what if I said the camera person was a monster or a giant spider or somebody coming to get the dog for a bath, right? And then look at the body
posture. Even from the get-go, right? They're like, come on, let's go. And he's a leash length away, even just going into the enclosure. Person approaches, he drops and moves away.
He's already creating that arc of oh, don't come over here, right? Even with the people. So, yep. Thanks.
And
I always like to play the game, right? What if that was something scary that you saw the dog looking at in place of the other dog, right? And that sometimes it helps you see it different.
This guy with the open mouth. The other thing too is look at the mouth tension, right? He had his mouth closed the entire time when he was looking at the shepherd. This black and white pitty comes in and his mouth is open. He's like, yeah, let's get stupid, right? And he's ready to play. So is this guy, girl, princess. Hello, rudeness. I'd like to order.
Right.
So you see in this situation, these two dogs, they're in this environment, but they're okay just being in that same space, right? They're not having a major issue with them being in that space and all that. They're just like, okay, this is interesting, right? They're able to be in that same place. Where Connor, as you saw, they had to take him out. He was not comfortable and happy there. And he was just not going to be, and you could tell for them, it's valuable information, because Connor probably ain't going to be great with other dogs. So right. They'd have to find a home that didn't have other dogs and people that don't have that expectation that they should want to play with other dogs. Right.
And let's be completely and totally honest. When Connor shows the same behavior to people, that's probably a dog that doesn't make it out of the shelter.
Agreed.
Right.
100%. Yep.
It's sad, but.
And you see the difference, as Lisa pointed out, with this dog. They were oriented to the people. They were very interested in.
Hi.
Came right to the.
Wow, that was naughty.
Yeah, she was all about the people. This one, right? She's interested in the people.
And see them looking up too. It's like I draw to me personally when I'm looking at dogs for families and stuff. I will select for the dogs. Oh, what a sweetie! I will select for dogs who are like, "Hi, what are we doing?" and orienting to the people offering eye contact unprompted, unsolicited, of their own volition. Hi.
And you can tell a lot of these dogs are pretty young, right?
Yep.
Um, so a little bit.
This one's a little odd. Shake off, play. I don't know. It's weird. The shepherd's like, "What are you saying?"
She's like, get away from me. How about that?
I know. What do you mean you don't like me? Poke, poke. You look like you do. Come on.
So rewind just a second, because that shepherd, I find, is a lot of adolescent dogs, right? They're
Right.
testing the waters. They want to be like, what do you think about this? And it's fine when the other dog is like, if you could just back off and move away, that'd be great. Till you hit that other adolescent dog that's like, what are you saying? Do you want to go outside? And they're like, yeah, I want to go outside. And then we have a dog, right?
And the other thing too, like when dogs interact, remember you're looking at body language, the way they should be curvy, bouncy,
Yep.
over exaggerated behavior, right? And I think that's what people don't understand. I'm not a fan of the stiff and still staring. Not cool, not okay. And the other thing is that if you truly aren't sure that your dog's having a good time, you take away the one who seems to be quote unquote the aggressor or the forward one, and then see what the other one does. It's called consent testing, right? To see if the other dog is okay with that or not.
And you see how it brings, look at this. So this is a pretty good example of a little bit of, right? A little bit of high arousal, right? Tulip kind of in,
Tulip's like the bunny.
yeah.
And look at the hair on the black and white pitty too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. But a lot of piloerection.
Yep.
So this is a little bit more inappropriate. So this is, to go back to that, the black and white pitty is being like, the tulip is not interested in interacting with him. He is like, come on.
Yeah.
It's like, you want to dance? You want to dance? Come on, let's dance. And you're like, no, I'm not interested in dancing. And the dog is just really, really pushy like that. So
even though she's bouncy, look at her mouth, her eyes. Her mouth is open, her eyes are big and wide, and you can see the whites, right? So she's not comfortable entirely here. Don't talk to me.
Get out of here. Okay.
So you see this black and white, just that entrance, and this is a perfect example about when they start to when they come in, and that level of arousal is just it's a tough situation. And Tulip is not interested in any interaction with this dog. She's trying to get away and get him to get away. It looks like she's playing. She's not interested in this interaction in any way. She's doing a lot of appeasing behavior, licking and all that stuff. And this dog is like, can't take it. And she is trying to get away from him. He is too much for her. And he's like,
if you
says it all makes me nervous.
It does. And if and the thing is like when I do play groups and stuff like that, they're like, okay. And I have everybody standing by and like, don't step in, because the other part too is you step in too soon, it can actually set the dogs on alert because you're closing space. And remember, Carol, Tulip is a rescue dog, so they don't have owners. This is just in a shelter situation.
correct.
So in a shelter situation, it's very different. They don't have connection. Whereas with dogs that are owned, they're gonna have more emotions, I think, if they're super connected or with their handler if they're in a play situation.
So this is a really good example. You see the shepherd is really, right? It's really Tulip says, see, we were right. Yeah. So the shepherd, and this dog comes in and targets that shepherd almost immediately, right?
Look at the shepherd. Oh God, I'm in trouble.
Yep.
So here's the thing. That little correction that Black Dog gave the other one, people would correct that.
Nope.
That is it was a very fair. He didn't attack the dog. He just told him that's too much. Goes back to Kirk snapping, and that was totally appropriate. The other dog was extremely rude, and so the dog was right. So it's one of those things. If we continue to put the dogs in the situation where they're constantly doing that, then we have a problem, because then they think that's what their options are, right?
Yep. And Kira, would you address how many dogs should be in the play group? As many as will get along, right? These are shelter dogs who don't get out. So some of this is life for them. Right.
So yeah, and I think yes. I mean, when I do play groups, I'm pretty and remember there is a difference between true shelters that are funded by, those are also considered no kill, and they're funded by the government. Right. And they have they're very different in how they're run versus private owned rescue. And this is what people don't understand. No kill does not mean never, ever kill. It just means that there's a criteria of live release rate. So you have to have 90% or higher to be funded by the government or what have you. In the cases of actual shelters, like I work for a private run and owned organization. So we can be particular about what comes into our shelter. Whereas an actual county shelter, for example, they take in everything and anything. They have to, they don't have a choice.
Have to. Yes.
And so what you get, because I've worked at a county run one as well, or funded one as well, they would get some pretty tricky dogs. We're right by Gary. And they would get some really tricky dogs. So I remember having to assess a dog that was targeting a dog at 50 feet away. And we had to determine whether or not that dog was safe to place in the community, because that dog actually, as I found out later, escaped a fence to try to kill another dog. And so my gut was like, nope, because at 50 feet away, the dog froze and got still. Whereas here in the rescue I'm at now, it's a little bit different. We're able to kind of look at the dogs and pick them out. And we pick social dogs because most families in the community want dogs that are good to get along with other dogs. That doesn't mean we don't get tricky dogs, because you get reactivity or dogs that are selective or can't be with cats or can't be with other dogs because of whatever. But it's important to, like, I'm more willing to put multiple dogs together when I know that their history is a little bit different. And they pull locally, but we also pull from Texas and some other states. And all of them go through the dogs. Most of them do the dogs playing for life, where they are interacting and they show the dogs get along with other dogs.
Right.
So,
but if this was private, like Carol says, Tulip's owner would definitely, if Tulip had an owner, yes, ideally she would be taken out of there. And Kira, Rachel agreed that if it was a private, like when we do play groups with our dogs, we only let 2 or 3 play at a time. It is easier to manage it. The more dogs, the more arousal, and the more things can go wrong.
right.
So if you have control of your situation, I'm all for having smaller quality dogs. Like Lisa might put out 3 or 4 dogs, but they're pretty good 3 or 4 dogs, right? That you can manage on your own. But yeah, it's one of it's if you can control, a smaller group is better. And I remember Lisa and I used to do play groups all the time.
Oh yeah.
We limited it to 6 dogs, but there was 2 of us there.
Yep. Because remember, the other thing too that we don't talk about or we have to watch for is, remember, dogs are still predatory animals, and there's a thing called predatory drift. So what that means is, like, if a dog, and not to cause alarm, but it's something to look for, is if somebody gets a little too excited or aroused by chase, it switches over from play to more serious. So you really have to be careful when you're doing things like that. I know one comes to mind, Nancy. I remember that, the screeching. And the pits were like, yeah. So that was a little bit scary, but at the same time, we stopped it immediately because we saw the change.
Yeah. So Lisa and I were working a play group. There was 2 male pitties and a female pitty, and it was fine. Everybody was getting along. They were playing. It was great. The female pitty let out a pretty, like a scream, like a a sound. It sounded like a
It
wounded
was a
animal.
squeal because yes, somebody insulted her or something.
Yeah. And those two male pits were like,
What?
yeah, we're like, okay, call your dogs, because these were owned dogs, and they had owners, and
Right.
well, your puppies, because yikes,
Right.
because you saw that drift go from playing
more.
to not.
Right.
So that's very important. So yeah, it's one of those things. And yeah, I would definitely if you can control how many in a group, I would absolutely,
Right.
I would rather have my dog play with 2 or 3 really great dogs than 10, you know. And also, I'll be honest, and we've been doing it a long time, and could we do it? Yes, but keeping an eye on that many dogs
Hard.
is very, very hard. So where you might be watching one thing, you might miss the other. So I am all about, you know, less is more for sure. I would rather like small little play groups is much better than big, you know.
Yep.
My I'm sorry, go ahead, Joanne.
I was just going to say, if you watch that video, like from beginning to end, you will notice strategically placed, there are a lot more humans in there than you see.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right. So there's almost, I might say not 1-to-1, but there's almost 1-to-1 a human per dog, because there's people letting them in and out. So there's humans 5 steps away from that. Right. So
Right.
then they need that, because
Mhm.
if that goes badly, that can be
Right.
real bad.
And so this is why I have such a problem with dog parks. People go there, let their dogs run, and don't watch the dogs.
Yes.
That's actually the biggest problem with dog parks.
Yes.
They just put the dogs in there, and they don't watch when the dog is getting over aroused or overstimulated, or when they don't notice when their dog is not having a good time, and all those things. And then after a while, it goes bad really, really quickly.
So there's things that I look for, and I know you guys look for, is play should be reciprocative. So it should be a back and forth situation.
Mhm.
And it should, like if a dog, they'll do play bows, right? And the play bows, there's a difference between a sustained play bow and one that's real quick and so forth. Let's play, don't take offense, versus I'm sorry, is this going to bother you? You know what I mean? If they do something, they'll do a longer play bow. And so these are some of the things to think about, like when the dogs are engaging. And again, your consent training, pull them away. Is this dog having a good time or not? I'm super careful with, so I have herding breeds, obviously. So when we go out to the yard, I want them to grab a ball because they're still young and can be kind of jerky to each other, especially my cattle dog. So everybody goes out, you grab a ball, run and play, and then the Dutch Shepherd will, you know, be stupid with a border collie and bounce it off him. He's like, I don't see you, that type of stuff. But when they are around appropriate dogs, so I usually will put my dogs, these guys who won't play the same way with each other, I'll, like my cattle dog's really good about helping dogs come out of their shell. And so she'll yield a lot of space. She'll play chase. She's like, how's this? And she'll do temperature checks, if you will, to see if, hey, is this okay? So we put her like with my dog, the dogs that are a little more uncertain or a little like, I don't know if I should do this or not. Is this okay? Playing with another dog. We'll put her with that dog to kind of help see how that dog handles it. And then once the dog feels comfortable, then you kind of decide who to add to the group or to switch up or say, this dog's play style like this. Mm-hmm. We had a Rottie come and we have a little dog and I can show you, it was really good because the Rottie, when I first saw him, he was really kind of like, he was interested in dogs, but he's a young guy. He was only like 3 months old and he's a little older now. I'm going to go ahead and if you don't mind, I'll share this unless you have something else.
Nope.
So, can everyone see this?
No. Okay. You have to click it on the bottom to add to stream.
Yeah, got it. Share city. Here it is.
Maybe, yep, there.
Okay, so, oh boy. Just had it on, psycho. Sorry, I'll get it up in a second. So there's this little dog. He's a little Pomsky, and he has really good dog social skills. And he was helping this Rottie pup kind of come out of his shell. And so if I can find the stupid, what am I doing? Facebook. Sorry, guys. Let me unshare this for a minute and pull it up. So he, there was this dog, and then there was another dog who was a year-old pup who was worried about other dogs and barking from a distance. And I'm like, I bet you he's concerned because they thought he was being aggressive. I'm like, no, he's actually just concerned about the other dog, so he becomes reactive. And that's not the case for everyone, but in this particular situation, he was I had him play with my cattle dog, and they did a pretty good job of helping him come out, and then he became the best friend of the Rottie, because when we were able to figure out what his issue was or what the deal was. So let's see. So now I'm going to go ahead and share. Screen. Okay. Oh, share. All right. Can you see now?
Mm-hmm.
So look at the bouncy and so forth and the sidestepping of the little rot, and then the disengagement. And that's something else to think about. It shouldn't be constant interaction. It should be they play a little and then they take a break. They play a little and they take a break too. The constant play can turn easily into somebody gets insulted and then it becomes an issue. So then he's like, oops, bumped into a tree there. But see the bouncing and the checking, hey, are we still playing, and so forth. And the little Pomsky's Timber, the little Rottie is, what's his face?
He makes Timber look big.
I know, but he's a really cool little dog. He's super serious. And, but like for him, we're using the play. He doesn't play all the time, but when he does play, we have him play to help him get better with his skills and so forth. I think this was the first one. Why is it not playing?
Yeah, it's buffering.
And on the ground, and you know, self-handicapping is another pillar of play, right? Where one's like, okay, you killed me, I'm good, right? And the back and forth and the bouncing. And so now she's trying to get him to stop playing with the other dog. So, so yeah, Timber helped bring this little guy out. But Timber came and stayed with me for a bit for a board and train because he had some issues. You know, as a husky, he likes to run and not come when called. So shocking. But anyway, so and then the Rottie's able to handle a little more excitement with other dogs. But it was careful orchestration, right, of trying to give him appropriate social skills, not somebody who overwhelmed him. We did one dog at a time, and then we started adding more appropriate dogs that knew each other and so forth. But
yeah, and that's why we wanted you to be able to see, like the shelter situation is different. It's different and it isn't. The only difference is that we have the, you know, we're the dog's owners and we can stop it and interrupt it. In this case, these folks are they're trying to do the best to give these dogs some social skills to be able to go out into the world and give them also some sanity, right, in that situation that they're in. But it also is pretty telling. Dogs that aren't feeling safe or are a little worried don't usually play. Animals that are unsafe don't usually play. Like if I asked you to play, let's go play cards, you know, in a really scary neighborhood, you're not going to want to because you're going to be like a little bit like Connor, right? He was so worried about everything else. He really is not interested in playing, right? Really wasn't. So then I will show the video. Let's see. This is kind of, well, so the interesting thing with this dog coming in, this dog, already even at the gate, what is it that you guys notice about this dog's
high tail set, forward movement, ears forward, direct stare, direct orientation.
So can everybody see that? Like, and really see that? Yeah, Miss Teeter.
It's not your game, Lisa.
What's that?
So the game's not for you, Lisa.
I love this game. My favorite game.
You do.
Calling me.
Oh,
There's some other interesting things about this situation too. I'm gonna just tell you. So this is not an accident that the dog had to pee or poop. Just saying.
aw. Poor little dude Carson came in. Hey, I'm just here to join the party. Please don't look at me.
Yeah, sorry about the ad, you guys.
Oops, the joys. Oh.
So you have to see this little guy.
Ouch.
So I think it looks like they took the shepherd out because the shepherd was scared of that other dog.
Yeah. Well, do you blame him being targeted like you would? Oh my. Oh my goodness.
So I'm gonna stop this. I'm gonna ask a question for the audience, Lisa.
Okay.
So why do you think you saw this dog on the the male dog that went after the shepherd, and now all of a sudden he's okay with this dog? Why? Why do you think that is? I can't see the answers, you guys. So let me.
No, it's okay. We'll tell you.
No
It takes a
answer
second.
yet.
Yeah.
Why do you think?
Female.
Did you catch it?
Girl. The dog is bigger
There.
than this one.
What they say?
The dog is bigger than this one. Size, girl, female. The ego he's displaying.
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you, and Lisa and Joanne, you could correct me. I think it was because it was a female.
And he has balls.
Yeah.
Did you catch it?
Yes.
Yeah,
Because
and
I'm
I
like-
also think I could be wrong here, but I also think it's because they're of similar breed type, right? So that is a thing, guys. If you have never seen it before, sometimes breeds get along with their own breeds, and they can, say, even if it's a female, sometimes if it's an opposite breed,
Mhm.
they cannot, right? So that can be a thing. But yeah, I agree with you guys. It was much more of a sex thing.
Mhm. He's like, you. Yeah. Right.
He was like, woo! And he jumped.
A whole
So
different
funny.
whole different approach and body posture for her than the shepherd for sure. Right?
Mike, I would wonder if that shepherd was intact.
Yeah.
Because
Or
sometimes
was
these,
recently neutered. Yeah.
yes, and because sometimes these dogs come and they're not spayed or neutered, for sure.
Mhm.
You know,
Or he was recently
neutered and still carrying the scent. Yep.
that doesn't mean that a neutered male wouldn't go after
No.
intact. I mean, it can
Right.
go both ways, right? Not only that the intact dog is naughty, and that's that's not what we're saying, right? So yeah, that was good. The female was a big difference for this particular.
And I
dog.
wonder if that brindle white one that's in the pool right now is a male or a female.
Mm,
Interesting, though.
I think he's a male. He's a male.
Yep, a boy. They're like, this one's sexy.
Yeah. So she may still be intact as well, and
So somebody asked, could the fact that the dog had been exposed to many dogs over that playtime and prime the pump, so to speak? It depends, I think, right? Because it depends. It could be, but the way she came in, this female came in, mouth open, hey, what's up? You know, she was all excited about it. And I think the other thing too is it could have gone either way. If that was a male that was let in, and see how he lets her get away with some stuff there.
Mhm.
Yeah. But I think it's total. Yeah, I would have to agree. But I think too, like sometimes I've seen when we've added a dog, they kind of amp up too much and then it gets worse. So I think it's very individual based with the dogs.
Yeah. And my guess is the reason these three are together is because they get along, because you see everybody else is gone.
Yep. Yep.
So they do a nice job here of they do a really good job of matching them and giving them a really good, and again, it goes back to quality versus quantity. So they have these three dogs get along great and they're playing fine. So that's better than having a whole ton of dogs that.
Right. These two are boys. I'm sorry, the two are boys. And I think the reason why they get along is because the brindle and white pitty doesn't really show concern from that other intact male. And I think the reason why he had a harder time with the shepherd and he wasn't going to let it go was because he was like, you're worried? Well, you're worried about me. What's going on? So I think he became more of a bully in that regard to try and pick on that dog. But the brindle's fine and his attention's more towards the female versus the other male.
Right.
Yep. But even when you were talking earlier, right, it's like, notice how they share her, right? Those two boys aren't really playing with each other.
No,
They're sharing the female.
Yep.
And so I'd be real curious to see if the longer this went on, if the boys, right, like in closed spaces types of things, or if one boy blocks another boy, right, does it still go great?
Right.
Because just those tiny dynamics can shift the entire conversation.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Right. And now they add another one. Oh, boy.
Another shepherd. Let's see if it's all shepherds or just...
Knock it off. Achilles. Let's see if he's weak somewhere. Or did they pull out? Let
me out of here.
No, I don't want to. Oh, maybe they pulled out the one guy and put in this brindle and the boy, the girl.
So you see one of the things.
Oh, no, they didn't. There he is.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's a constant change in dynamic, right?
This one doesn't want to be there. You could tell right off.
Right.
I'm good. Thanks. Tail tucked all the way under. Wow. Oh boy. Corners, yucky. So it's a girl. That looks like a girl too.
Mm-hmm.
What are you eating? Oh my God.
So you see, guys, this is great, really, footage, because it's such a lot of variety and a lot of stuff to look at.
Yeah.
And how much they change and go through, pairing and separating and giving them time. It really matters. See, like they put clearly, the other dog did not get along so good with this one. So it's a constant. And now he's got two females, right?
Yeah, when we do play groups, it's very similar, right? Where we'll add a dog and we'll change them up. And we don't know these dogs' histories. And remember, not all dogs get along with everyone. So like, oh, that's not working. Let's take them out. Let's put this one up. Let's exchange them. The other thing, what's cool about where I work at is that we have runs that are similar, kind of like what they do. And we can separate a dog and say, let's see them kind of how they're interacting at the gate. Although you can't really trust that because some dogs have barrier frustration and aggression and stuff like that. So then we're like, okay. And, it's really cool when we get a bunch of volunteers to sit there and do this, but you can't be like freaking out. Right. So I'm like, if you're going to scream, you can't come in here. Right. Because that's going to make a whole nother dynamic with it. But yeah, it is very exhausting because you're on the entire time. It's really, I like doing it. It's fun, but it's also a little nerve wracking when you don't know these dogs.
Right. And even when you do, like because we used to do play groups often, and we do play groups often, and it was very stressful because you had to be on because you're also dealing now with client dogs and the clients, right? Which is a little more challenging. Where in this case, you're really only working with the dogs,
right?
and working with how they get along and kind of socialize in that way. And
What about cat play? Let's talk about cat play. That's vital.
yeah, could Sue asked, could the fact that the dog had been exposed to too many dogs? Oh yeah, but yeah, because I mean they get more, they have better experiences, because that's what we do, right? As puppies, right? They have really good experiences, they get better, but still, if the dogs don't get along, it's better not to prolong that interaction, right? And let it get back to where it becomes a bigger problem. You can always stop it and then go back to it down the road, or a little later in the session, to see if the dogs are calmer, or different dynamics might be helpful. Yeah, the playtimes are challenging for sure, right?
So somebody wrote in, sorry, Connie wrote, I have a female spayed Finnish Lapphund who was a show dog for the first 6 years of her life in 3 countries. Then she came to me to be a pet and do nose work. She greets all dogs with a direct approach and sniffs their muzzles immediately. And many dogs don't care for that. Surprisingly, only one dog, an elderly pit female, has reacted to her with hostility. Why in the world is she so completely in your face with other dogs when her whole life she's been around literally other dogs?
But it depends on, did she get any social, did she get to play with other dogs? Did she get that interaction? I don't know.
Well, because I'm going to tell you, as someone who has show dogs myself and goes to confirmation shows, right? Mm-hmm. They are in the vicinity of dogs. They are not around dogs. Right. Okay. So being on a show lead, they have this much space from their handler. They don't go greet other dogs. They don't go sniff other dogs. Right. And if they do try to wander away, they get corrected. Right. So if your dog was in 3 countries, I'm betting, right, she was one heck of a show dog, meaning she was ranked a bunch of places, meaning it's all business. We're not messing around. You're not greeting other dogs. You're not doing anything but showing, right? And so don't confuse dog shows 4 times a week with dog interactions, because
or appropriate social skills, right?
Nope, she was probably kenneled next to dogs. She was probably in the ring with dogs. But as far as playtime with strange dogs, I'm betting you little to none of that happened. You'll get a broken coat. You will get if the dog got a scar or something like that, right? It messes up their show career. And when people are dead serious about it, this is a different world, guys.
Yeah.
But, and with a caliber of dog that's been to 3 countries, right? Not your normal dog show, but when you have a really well-winning dog that's traveling around like that, they don't, like, sometimes some of these toy breeds, guys, their coats don't touch the grass because they'll break their coat. So they're all wrapped up all the time. So it's a different world. So
yeah. And so you might, and I know this is you might want to find a dog that doesn't take too much offense to that forward,
Find a Vizsla.
A Vizsla.
It depends on the Vizsla.
a nice Vizsla or Golden or a Lab that may not take offense to that approach, right? Because some dogs, they're like, okay, it's weird, but it's all right. You know what I mean? So that she then has a good experience, and maybe they might correct her, but in a nice way, so that she learns how to do that. But yeah, like Joanne said, just because she was around dogs doesn't mean they're social.
Just dog social skills.
They just know how to be around them, under control. But if she left to her own devices, this is what happens. And this is why it's so important to socialize your puppies. It doesn't mean that your puppies are going to be pals with dogs forever. It just means that they learn good social communication and good social skills that they need to have. That's why we do playtimes and puppy class and all that. Not because they're supposed to be playing with dogs forever, but because you want them to have good social skills and be able to understand other dog body language themselves, so that they can grow up in not worry about dogs. And some breeds aren't going to be they're not going to be doggy dogs.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, right? You guys hear us talk about Bam and the Doberman all the time, but right, I'm super glad he got a lot of fantastic social skills when he was young. And when he hit adolescent, he is still an intact male. And when he hit adolescence, we were very careful, right? And even now, he really only plays with girls. So he's just not a super dog social dog, and that's okay, right? I don't care. You don't have to go to the dog park or, play groups. Be kind and don't worry about things, right? Like just be calm and under control. And when a dog's 6 feet away, that's the only criteria I have for you. So
yeah,
I think one other thing to consider too is that how your dogs act with dogs in the house is very different than how they'll act with other dogs outside of the house. My Dutch Shepherd will play with my other dogs, but in a social setting, if there's other dogs around, she'll tolerate them close by, but she'd really rather not. And I saw that young as when she was a puppy, and I saw her kind of harass a puppy a little bit, and I'm like, no, we're done. And I took note of that, and then I just made sure I watched her interaction, so she can tolerate being next to them, but she's not a fan to play with everybody. And she's socially awkward. Like her reaction is big and loud. If a dog comes up and does something inappropriate, like sniffs her backside, this puppy that I had this week was like really into sniffing her, and she's like, knock it off. And it was just a big, loud, boisterous thing. And then she moved away, and he's like, you weren't serious. So he kept harassing her. And I'm like, okay, we're done. Because that wasn't fair to her either. So, I think that's what's important is that if you're going to give them good skills, you have to make sure you're careful with the types of dogs you place them with. And then also you need to respect their body language and say, if it's too much, it's too much. I don't care that my dogs play with everybody. What I care is that they're tolerant in the vicinity of other dogs, period.
So Heather asks, Olive likes to play with other dogs, but needs a slow introduction. What's the best way to do that? Well, depending on where the play is, and that's why I think I'm kind of a big fan, and I know I'm kind of a buzzkill, but I like dogs to be under control when they get to meet other dogs. They just don't get to run in and go and play.
Right.
I would probably like to have them sit, have the other dog with their handler. I'll live with you, kind of sit down, have each handler, give them treats, just let them be, relax a little bit on leash till everybody calms down, and then you can let do an introduction. And it should be, you can drop the leash if you're not comfortable, but it should be you always want to start those dog to dog interactions from a place of calm, not wild and crazy, barking and spinning and all that stuff.
And let me ask you guys, how would you feel about that as a Facebook Live, right? How to introduce dogs, or how to tell if it's going to go well or if it's not going to go well.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's one of those, my cat is trying to get Jive off the bed.
Oh boy.
He's such a jerk.
Well, yeah, we have some yeses here for that. That's a good one.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's one of the things that introductions have to be, the first thing I can tell you is under control. Under control. You just can't let it's like letting two frat boys come in a room, crushing beer cans. It's not going to go well. It's just not. It's just going to turn into a brawl. So always start from a place of calm, and you'll get further that way. So do like other stuff. Do a parallel walk with the other dog. Come back and sit, relax, and then you can introduce. Parallel walks are great for getting them used to being around the other dog, right? And just kind of burn off a little bit of that steam. There are some dogs that before you're able to put them with other dogs to play, they need to run around a little bit by himself. My Shepherd is that, right? I need to run him a little bit before I put him with another dog because he's a lot. And he's pushy and forward. So I make sure he runs a little bit. He's a little tired and he has a ball. So then that way, he doesn't other dogs.
Me? Who, me?
My goodness.
So so there's again parallel walks, running the other dog that may be a little too active, running that helps kind of burn off some of that steam before you meet them, before they get to play with another dog. So they're not coming in so strong. And we usually do that a lot with pit bulls because it really helps. Yeah. right? And pay attention. Don't just drink your Starbucks and talk about the politics of the day. Shh, shh.
The border collie is like just smacked out. And I'll do it too.
Go get the ball. Go get the ball. Go.
Get your ball.
Go get it.
All right.
Anyway, so yeah, I think our dog had decided he's trying to eat dinner. Anyway, I hope you found this helpful. I know it was just a little bit of information, but I think a little at a time is a good thing, and just keeping an eye on that, right? The body language and all that. It's the second type of ball is mentioned while running. Yeah, Sue, some dogs, not all dogs like balls, but a lot of times if you have a dog that can be mouthy, like my shepherd likes to do that whole German takedown, grabbing of the neck. And some dogs get offended. So if they have a ball in their mouth, they can't do that.
Right.
And so it makes for a better introduction. That doesn't mean they're going to keep the ball in their mouth the whole time, but as far as the introduction, it's really helpful in some cases, right?
Yeah.
Into the house.
People entering the house and outside the other dogs. Yep, absolutely.
I used it for my lab for people coming in the house because he was so excited. Not my current lab, my lab that passed away. And for my current shepherd, he has to carry it when he meets other dogs. He's great with the people. It's not a problem. But when he meets another dog, he's a little too much. So either I run him a little bit and then he carries a toy. And that makes life a lot more pleasant for the dogs. And then it sets them up for success, you guys. It just sets them up for a good interaction and nothing that's not offensive. Because my shepherd loves to do the German takedown. Oh, stop that.
But you have to be really careful. If your dog is a resource guarder, do not do that. Just caveat.
Correct.
No.
Even if they're better with it, meaning dogs, don't do it.
Yeah. Excuse me, my lab got her. Oh, you are a bad dog. What is that? Oh.
Yeah, and I'll also like when my Dutch Shepherd, I remember when I got her, my husband was like, because she wanted to bite everything. And he's like, why did you get this breed? I'm like, because I like them. And so then I taught her to get a ball because she has a tendency to get overstimulated and excited about stuff and start mouthing. So that's when I pushed to go to a ball. So she'll get a toy and say, here it is. And that's a way to greet as well.
And it doesn't work for all dogs, you guys.
Right.
It works for some, not all.
Okay.
And maybe we'll do some video of that because my shepherd is a perfect example of that. He needs to carry a ball because he's such a jerk sometimes. But he's just so big and powerful that he can absolutely hurt another dog. But yeah, we'll look into doing that. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. Again, I hope you found this very helpful, and helps you develop a little bit of your eye watching dogs and play and all that. Because it takes time and practice. Videotape it and see what you saw and all that. It really does help quite a lot. So anyway, see you all. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Bye, everybody.